Nan McKay & Associates has produced this video to be used in briefing clients on the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Use of this video is limited to authorized users who have purchased the video "Welcome to the Housing Choice Voucher Program" from Nan McKay & Associates. Unauthorized use is subject to civil and criminal penalties. We are committed to ensuring full access to participation. If you need an accommodation for a disability in order to have full access to our services, please let us know. Congratulations on being selected to participate in the Housing Choice Voucher Program. This program provides you with housing assistance and allows you more choice in where you want to live. To do this, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, provides money to your housing agency to pay part of the rent to your landlord. Now that you've been determined to be eligible for the program, this video can give you a better idea of how to find a place to live and what to expect during your participation. Your housing representative will also explain the housing agency's rules and answer any questions that you may have. The housing agency will work with both you and your landlord. The program can only be successful through a solid partnership between the landlord, the housing agency, and you. All three have important responsibilities to each other. Let's go over the housing agency's responsibilities, your responsibilities, and your landlord's. The housing agency has many responsibilities. They are to determine if you are eligible for the program, to issue you a voucher, to explain how the program works, to approve the unit you choose, to pay assistance payments to the owner, and to make sure that owners and families follow the program rules. Your responsibilities are to provide all information your housing agency requests, find suitable housing, take good care of the housing unit, abide by the landlord's lease, and comply with the family obligations of the voucher program and the housing agency's rules. The landlord's responsibility is first to try to select a good renter. A landlord may want to check credit history, rental history, and criminal history before agreeing to rent the unit. The landlord is also responsible to obey fair housing laws, to make repairs to the unit, to comply with the contract between the owner and the housing agency, to collect your portion of the rent, and to enforce the lease. You will get a briefing packet from the housing agency that contains information about the program, the forms you'll need to complete when you find a place you want to live, and your responsibilities once you are on the program. Take a moment to look through the packet your agency has given you. Your briefing packet contains a voucher, the amount of time you have to find a unit, including possible extensions to your search time, how the housing agency calculates what they pay toward your rent and utilities, the areas in which you may look for a unit, an explanation of portability, which is when a family takes their voucher to another agency's jurisdiction and continues to receive assistance. The HUD Tenancy Addendum Form, which contains the HUD requirements that must be included in your lease. A Request for Tenancy Approval Form, which is the HUD form you must submit when you find a unit that the landlord is willing to lease. The HUD brochure called A Good Place to Live that describes how to select a unit. The housing agency's policy for determining the bedroom size listed on the voucher. A copy of the Housing Discrimination Complaint Form, a list of owners who may be willing to lease units to families, a notice that families may request a list of accessible units if there is a family member with disabilities, the family obligations under the program, which are written on the voucher itself, the reasons for which assistance can be terminated, and the housing agency's informal hearing procedures. If you or anyone in your family is a person with disabilities and you need a specific accommodation because of your disability in order to fully access your agency's programs and services, please talk to the person you are working with at the housing agency. They will work together with you to be sure that your family has equal access to all available housing programs and opportunities. Your voucher is the most important document in your briefing packet. It is the agreement between you and the housing agency and lists all of your responsibilities under the program. The unit size listed on your voucher refers to the maximum number of bedrooms for which you can receive assistance. If you choose a larger bedroom size, the housing agency will only pay for the bedroom size of your voucher. If you choose a smaller bedroom size, the housing agency will pay the amount for the smaller bedroom size. The expiration date is listed on your voucher. If your voucher expires before you find suitable housing and turn in your paperwork to the agency, you will have to reapply and go back on the waiting list if it's open. That is why it is important that you find a suitable unit as quickly as possible. In some cases, your agency might be willing to extend your search time. Your housing representative will explain the policy on extending vouchers. It's up to you to decide where you want to live. You may look for a unit anywhere within the housing agency's jurisdiction. You may also look for a unit outside the agency's jurisdiction if you qualify. You may choose to continue living in your current unit as long as it qualifies under program rules. On the other hand, if you live in a high-poverty neighborhood, you may want to consider searching for a housing unit in another area. Your voucher makes it possible for you to look in places you may not have looked for a unit before. Some of the advantages of moving to a lower poverty area could be better employment and educational opportunities, or being closer to community services. In your search for suitable housing, you'll want to choose a place that meets your family's needs. First, consider the neighborhood and unit. Is there a safe place for your children to play? Is the area clean and well kept? You may want to consider other factors like, which schools will your children attend? How close is the nearest grocery store? Is the area close to where you work or your children's daycare? Is there public transportation nearby? In your briefing packet, you should find a list of property owners who may have available units. You are not limited to this list. You may also want to use the internet, the newspaper, or apartment guides. As you search for a unit, keep in mind that the unit will have to pass inspection, so the condition of the unit you choose is important. The HUD brochure included in your briefing packet describes how to choose a unit that will pass inspection. There is also a lead-based paint brochure in your packet that you should review. You may have to look at several units before you find one you want to rent and that qualifies for the program. Also, when you meet with the owner to look at the unit, you may want to ask these questions. What is the owner's maintenance policy? Will you be allowed to have pets? How much is the security deposit? Are any utilities included in the rent? Who supplies the stove and refrigerator? Many owners will have you complete an application and may check your credit and references along with your rental history. Your briefing packet contains a statement of the housing agency's policy on providing information to prospective owners. If the owner is not familiar with the Housing Choice Voucher program, let them know that he or she can contact your housing agency. A housing representative will explain how the program works. Your housing agency may also provide an owner information packet or handbook, or they may hold meetings for new owners. When you choose the unit you want, you must request that the housing agency approve it by submitting the Request for Tenancy Approval form in addition to any other documents that your agency requires you to provide. Remember, your leasing documents must be received by the housing agency before your voucher expires. It is important to make sure you do not sign a lease before you submit your paperwork to the agency. You cannot sign a lease until the unit passes inspection and is approved for the program. When the housing agency receives your request for tenancy approval, they will schedule an inspection. The person working with you at the housing agency can advise you about how inspections are scheduled. It is a good idea to be present at the inspection of the unit so you can see what repairs need to be made. If the unit doesn't pass inspection, the owner can be given time to make repairs and the unit re-inspected after repairs are completed. In addition to passing the inspection, your housing agency must also make sure that the rent the owner is charging is reasonable. The agency determines this by comparing the rent for the unit you have chosen to rents charged for similar units in the area that are not on the voucher program. Once the unit is approved, you will sign a lease with the owner. Your housing agency will tell you when the unit has been approved and you can sign the lease. After the lease is signed, the owner will sign a contract with the housing agency and the agency will begin paying housing assistance payments to the owner each month. The amount of rent you will pay to the owner each month is based on a percentage of your income and the rent for the unit you choose. Failure to pay your share could result in eviction by the owner and a loss of your housing assistance. It's very important that you understand how the payment standard works. You should find a copy of the payment standard schedule for your agency in your briefing packet. The payment standard schedule is broken down by bedroom size. Circle the payment standard that matches your voucher size. That amount is the maximum your agency will pay for rent and utilities. If you choose a unit where the rent and utilities are below that payment standard amount, Your share will generally be 30% of your monthly income. The agency wants to make sure your rent payments are affordable to you. If you find a unit where the rent and utilities are higher than the payment standard amount, your share will be more than 30% of your monthly income. HUD does not allow families to pay more than 40% of their income towards rent and utilities. If the unit is not affordable for you, the agency won't be able to approve your unit unless the landlord is willing to lower the rent. Your housing representative will provide you with more information about this affordability limit. There is also information about how your portion of the rent is calculated in your briefing packet. The housing agency will notify both you and the owner when the amount of your housing assistance payment and the amount of rent you pay have been calculated. While you are on the program, you will have to comply with the owner's lease, the family obligations on the voucher, and the housing agency's policies and procedures. The housing agency will contact you to schedule a re-examination according to their schedule. They will re-verify your income and confirm who is living in the unit. If your income has changed, your rent will be adjusted. About 3 or 4 months prior to your re-examination, you will receive a written notice from the housing agency. When your re-examination is conducted, you provide complete and accurate information about who lives with you and the income of all members of your household. The housing agency will verify all of the information that you provide. The information you provide will be compared to a national database of employment and Social Security records to make sure that the information you provided is accurate and up to date. Providing false or incomplete information may cause you to lose your voucher. Once the agency completes your re-examination, they will determine your share of the rent for the upcoming period until your next scheduled re-examination. Both you and the owner will be given a written notice before any change in your rent payment or the housing agency's payment to the owner goes into effect. You are also required to allow the housing agency to conduct a full inspection of your unit at least annually. The agency conducts this inspection to make sure your unit is in decent, safe, and sanitary condition. If you can't be home for your inspection, be sure to make arrangements for an adult to be there to allow the inspector to enter the unit. This is required for everyone on the program. If a family member moves out of the unit, you must report it to the housing agency right away. Also, if you are considering having someone move into your unit, you must first let the housing agency know because all household members must be approved by the agency before they can live in the unit. Be sure that you understand your housing agency's procedures for approval of additional household members. You can lose your assistance if you move someone in without the approval of your agency. Ask your housing agency about the maximum length of time your guests are allowed to stay. If the amount of your rent changes because of a change in your income, both you and the landlord will receive advance written notification of your new rent amount and the date it goes into effect. The landlord may not increase the rent for the unit during the first year of your lease. However, after the first year, the landlord may submit a request for a rent increase to your housing agency. All owner rent increases must be approved by the housing agency before they go into effect. If the owner asks you to agree to any changes in the lease, contact the housing agency to find out what to do. Also, you should be aware that federal law protects renters in foreclosed properties. Your housing authority should be able to provide you with more information on your rights should foreclosure affect your unit. If you decide you want to move to another unit and continue receiving housing assistance, you must give the owner proper written notice according to your lease. This is usually 30 days, but you'll need to check your lease to be certain. You're also required to give a copy of the notice to the housing agency. The person working with you at the housing agency will explain the housing agency's rules and procedures for moving. If you are thinking about moving outside your housing agency's area, talk to your housing agency representative. This is called portability. Portability permits a family to move to a new area with continued voucher assistance. Your briefing packet should have information about how portability works. At the end of this briefing, you will be asked to sign your voucher. By doing so, you acknowledge your responsibilities and obligations while participating in the program. These family obligations are listed on your voucher, and they apply to all families on the program. There are 2 types of family obligations. The first type of obligation includes things you must do. Families are required to do the following in order to keep their voucher. Tell the truth about who will be living in the unit and the amount of their household income. Provide proof of their Social Security numbers and citizenship status. Provide documents that your agency asks for, such as your birth certificate or photo ID. Inform your agency when someone moves out of the unit and request approval before allowing anyone to move into the unit. Sign any consent or release forms that are needed to verify eligibility. Take care of the unit and don't damage the unit beyond normal wear and tear. Allow the housing authority to inspect the unit at reasonable times after reasonable notice. Once you are admitted to the program, you must live in the unit as your family's only place of residence. Provide any information requested by the housing agency to verify the family is living in the unit or relating to family absences. Notify the housing agency and owner before moving out of the unit and give the housing agency a copy of any owner eviction notice. In addition, when you give information to the housing agency, don't leave out anything that could have an effect on the amount of rent you pay. Information you provide must be true and complete. The second type of family obligation includes things you must not do. You must not seriously or repeatedly violate the lease. Do not sublet or transfer the lease. Do not use illegal drugs or get involved in any other type of illegal drug-related activity. Do not commit any violent criminal acts. You must not abuse alcohol in a way that threatens the health, safety, or right to peaceful enjoyment of the premises by other residents. It's important that you and your family understand and honor your family obligations under the voucher. If your family fails to abide by these family obligations, your assistance may be terminated and you may not be eligible for future assistance. Housing assistance is a privilege and should not be abused. If you're not sure about the rules and procedures, contact your housing agency to get the correct information. No one should be evicted or lose their assistance unnecessarily. Your family obligations and rules of the program are included in your briefing packet. Keep all of the program literature you have been provided in a safe place with your lease so you can refer to them in the future. In your dealings with the PHA and with the owners, be aware of your rights under federal non-discrimination laws. These laws prohibit you from being treated differently because of your age, religion, gender, disability, color, race, national origin, or because you have children. HUD housing programs are also open to all eligible individuals and families, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or marital status. Some states or local areas may have additional protections as well. The Violence Against Women Act, known as VAWA, also offers protections for applicants and participants, regardless of gender. VAWA protects victims from losing their housing due to domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. If you feel you have been denied your housing rights due to unlawful discrimination, you can file a housing discrimination complaint to help resolve the issue. You can do this in a number of ways, through HUD or through state or local agencies specializing in fair housing issues. Legal services and disability rights groups often help qualified individuals file fair housing complaints through the local court system as well. There is information in your packet about how to file a complaint. Ask your housing representative if you have questions. Information and cooperation are the key ingredients to achieving success in the voucher program. The information you have received today will help you succeed in choosing safe, decent housing in the community that is best for your family. You are about to become one of the more than 1 million families who have been served by the Housing Choice Voucher Program. By following the program rules, you will be able to increase your housing choices at a price you can afford. You'll be able to choose the neighborhood you want to live in and the type of housing that's best for your family with the features that are most important to you.